Assalamu alaikum guys, what's going on, and welcome back to the channel. Okay, so we've been gone for a couple of weeks, and as you can tell by the title of the video, the reason for this has not been the nicest of reasons. So a couple of weeks ago we got a call saying that my last living grandparent, which is my mother's mother, my Nani Jan, we call her Ami Jan because Ami Jan means mother, Nani Jan means your mother's mother. We've always called her Ami Jan because that's just that's just what we called her. We got a call saying that she was dying. She lives in London, so we should go to London to pay our last respects and pay our last visits. We got there on a Thursday, and my Nani Jan held on until Tuesday, Fajr time. It was just before Fajr, about 2:30 in the morning, and where she sadly passed. The funeral was 2 days after the janaza, and a week on from the date that we were told to get to London to pay our visits, we had buried my grandmother. So it's been very sad. It's been very difficult. I don't know why, if it's just the stage of my life that I'm at now, or if it's because I'm a father now, or if it's solely because of the relationship I had with my grandmother, that this one hit very hard. It's a big loss which has affected the family in a huge way. Obviously I want everybody to pray for my grandma, pray for my grandparents, that Allah has mercy on them, forgives them for all of their shortcomings and misdeeds, and elevates their status and admits them, enters them into the highest station of paradise, Jannatul Firdaus. Obviously I want that, but the reason that I'm doing this video now is going through that experience has brought up a few points of reflection. Some things have stuck out to me, and although it is a sad topic and not our usual topics, I guess, but it's something that we're all going to experience. It's the one thing in life that is guaranteed, and I thought I'd just take this as an opportunity to share what it's meant to me, some points I picked up along the way, some points of reflection, like I said, and some things it's made me consider and reflect on, well, within myself as well. Yeah. So alhamdulillah, I'm one of the lucky ones who, from birth, from child, all my life basically, I have known all four of my grandparents, my mother's parents and my father's parents. They've both sets of parents have been very present in our lives. Obviously this is a blessing. It gives the children a richer experience, especially if those relationships are healthy, which they have been with my family. Grandparents are the hub. All of my dad's side of family would gather at my grandparents' house, and we'd all meet each other there, and there's so much love and coming together. The same thing at my other grandparents' house on my mother's side. If you are one of the lucky ones that has this, I know my wife Amara is in exactly the same state as well. She knows both sets of grandparents. It's a blessing. It's great for the kids. It's great for the family. But if life occurs in the natural order, it does mean that the likelihood is you will be burying all four of those grandparents, and will be losing those relationships, and there will be a collateral and a knock-on effect in terms of like families separating and splitting up, and the hub not being there, and not even be able to hear the culture or the voices or whatever it is anymore. So as nice as it is to have that relationship, there is a hard side of knowing all four parents and grandparents and having them in your life, because you inevitably will lose them. So if you are someone that has known all four of your grandparents, or have known both sets of grandparents, I mean, even if you've not, but if you have known both sets, you're very lucky. Alhamdulillah. If you still have those relationships available to exercise them and make the most of them. So the order in which I lost my grandparents was my grandfather passed first on my dad's side, and shortly after, a few years after, my grandmother passed. Then my grandfather passed on my mother's side, and a few years after, this is just a couple of weeks ago now, my grandmother passed. We have no grandparents anymore. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to give a few points, and then I'm just going to explain everything that did happen. It'll all make sense in a minute. So the way it happened with my grandmother, my Nani Jan, is that all of the family had gathered around the bed, and obviously the family there, her children are there, which includes my mother, and people are speaking and reflecting. And one of my uncles mentioned how, I don't want to say in an envious way, I wouldn't even say with a heavy heart, but there was just something behind it, something innocent, nothing negative. But he mentioned how the love of the grandparents skips a generation, and how we only know love from our grandmother, and she only had love to give us And that must be true for like every relationship. The grandchildren are the reward for the grandparents, in the sense that, let's say I bring up my daughter, and obviously we have our trials and tribulations, and we go through the ups and the downs. And when Amaya eventually, inshallah, does have children, all I have is the love side of that. There are no negatives, there are no trials. I don't have to deal with the attitude, and she don't have to deal with my, I guess, it's telling her to go this way instead of this way. It's just a love relationship. So in a sense, I get what my uncle meant when he said that the love skips a generation. But I think it's just worth mentioning that with all sets of my grandparents, and you need to bear in mind that both my sets of grandparents are not from England. They're not from the UK originally. My dad's parents are from Jamaica and came down here 60, 70 years ago, maybe even more than that. And the same goes for my mum's parents from Pakistan or India at that point. Let's not get into that. And they moved down to here to make a life. And with all of the difficulties that you could imagine arise from the travel, the stress, the bringing up kids in this, the financial situations, I never once even saw a frown on any of my grandparents' faces. There were times when I knew they were annoyed about something, but when they talked to me, when they talked to the rest of their grandchildren, my cousins, nothing but smiles, nothing but love. It's as though, I don't know if this is a cultural thing or if this is just a relationship kind of thing, but I never saw them sad. I never heard harshness in their tone, never frowned at me, nothing, not any of them. If I can just explain what happened with my grandmother, this might be all over the show. I did plan some kind of like rough structure to this video, but we're here. What happened with my grandmother was, on a Thursday we got a call, as I mentioned, saying that my grandmother had hours, if not short days, left. So we live in Manchester. It was a Thursday, and we immediately made the journey to London. What happened is, for the next Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 5 days, we stayed by the bed. We slept rough. We slept in cars, slept in hotels, slept on hospital floors. All of the cousins, pretty much, her children, stayed by my grandmother's side. I could do so many videos telling you stories of her life. What kind of she was a force of nature. She was like Violet Evergarden. I don't know if you've ever seen Violet Evergarden. She was just, alhamdulillah, she was an amazing woman. But when we saw her on that Thursday, Friday, what we arrived to see was not my grandmother. So I don't know if you've ever witnessed anybody passing. We basically watched my grandmother pass away. She was in a state where her organs, body had stopped functioning. She was only breathing. Her muscles had seized in her neck and her body, so her face was fixed to one side. It wasn't a nice visual image. Obviously, it didn't mean anything to us because we love our grandmother. We still kiss her face and hold her, but she was basically unresponsive, which is weird because a couple of days prior she was having full conversations with everybody. So this happened very quickly. Now obviously we don't live in London, we live in Manchester, which is like 200 odd miles away. Other than my mother, the rest of the family all live in London, so they were able to access and visit. The children, so my uncles and aunties, had said that basically my grandma at this point is unresponsive. She's not going to talk. She can't speak. Nothing at all. She's not going to move. She's not going to anything. And for each of her grandchildren, as they came in to that room, she moved, she moaned, made noises. She forced her hands up to clasp us, to grab us. Obviously she couldn't talk, she could only make noises. She couldn't even look at us, but her pupils would widen. Even while she was passing away and her body was failing, she still forced herself to respond to us positively. And what had actually happened was, on the Thursday, I think it was a Friday, me and my brother, all of our family had gone down, and we had to take somebody back to Manchester. So just before we were leaving, on the Friday, this is actually the last movement that my grandmother made as we were leaving. She put her arms up as me and my brother stood up to leave, and she put her arms up Her arm just went in the air, and bear in mind, this is somebody that's not moving at all. Her arm went in the air and floated in the air, and she called us to hug her, basically. So we hugged her and we held her, and then she made a sound and put her arms up in the air again and held her arms in the air. And I think she also did that with one of my other cousins, like maybe an hour later, and that was the last thing she did, the last way communicating outwardly that we could pick up, other than looking in the eyes and you can see a glimmer of this and that. That was the last thing that she did, was to extend her arms and hug us, while she was totally unresponsive and her body was not functioning anymore. Like that is miraculous, but such was the love of my grandmother that while she was passing away and had no life in her, she still went through the effort to show us, well, I'm still here, I'm still smiling, I'll still hold you. Or maybe it was for her, that she wanted to hold what she loves so dear one more time. So yeah, when my uncle said that the love of the grandparents skips a generation, we saw that with our own eyes. We saw that with our own eyes. Something else which I wanted to mention, when you experience, I'm trying not to use the D word, DEATH, yeah, I'm trying not to use that word because YouTube. When you experience somebody passing, it puts everything into perspective for you, doesn't it? Like some things which feel important are no longer important. Things which were stressful are no longer stressful. Things which you were looking forward to, they don't mean anything anymore. The reality of life hits you very, very hard and everything becomes super clear. But during these moments here, you see the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the power of God, and how no matter what you plan, no matter what you want to happen, there is something else going on in the background which we have no control over. So just to talk you through what actually happened now, I've explained the state that my grandma was in, but I'd come home on the Friday, and on Saturday morning I went straight back. I'll speak about that in a minute. Went straight back, and we basically stayed in London until my grandmother passed away. My mother, who has been through cancer, tuberculosis, has great mobility issues right now, refused to leave her mother's bedside, and stayed in that hospital room at the bottom of my mum's bed, watching over her the whole time. So from the second we arrived there, my mum didn't leave that room. I mean, she walked up and down the ward and went down literally once to get some air, but she was forced to go down because there was something going on with the car outside. But she didn't leave her mother's side until she passed. And my mum made dua. Whether or not I should be mentioning this, I don't know. I'm sorry, mum, if you didn't want me to mention this, but that she's there for when my Nani Jan does pass. That was one of my mother's duas. What happened was my two cousins as well, my two female cousins, because we all would have stayed in the room, but my Nani was a woman that wanted, she didn't want men to see her and dress her and things like this. She was very, very prim and proper in that sense, although she had an amazing sense of humour, but she was very prim and proper in that sense. So my two cousins who live in London were already staying there. They stayed by her bedside, as did my mother, until she passed. My younger sister also stayed there, and so did I. In that room, my two cousins and my mother did not leave, okay? And my sister, just to make a journey home and pick up some stuff, and my sister looked after my mum so greatly, may Allah reward her. But basically 4 people did not leave that room. 3 people did not leave for a second. My sister was in and out of the room, and I was in and out of the room. Okay, so my Nani Jan here is on 24-hour watch. This is my point. My Nani Jan's on 24-hour watch. Okay, so what would happen was, from that Friday, Saturday, we slept in the car, we slept in the hospital bed, we went round to the family's house round the corner, and every day at about Fajr time, which was 3 o'clock in the morning, just before Fajr, so call it about 2:30, we would leave the hospital and go back to recuperate, have a nap, pray. We'd pray Fajr, 2-3 hours, 6 o'clock in the morning, get up, come back. So there were only 3 hours when I wasn't there each day, 4 hours when I wasn't there each day, maybe 3 or 4 hours when my younger sister wasn't there each day. But my mum and my 2 cousins were there all the time, 100% all of the time. So just get this in your head that me and my sister and my cousins and my mum, we're always in this room. We've got a pattern. We get to Fajr, we go, we come back. We get to Fajr, we go, we come back. We get to Fajr, we go, we come back. This is how it goes, okay? And my mum and my cousins, they just sit in the chairs. I'm talking, these are like school chairs, nothing comfortable. My mum had one of the cushioned hospital chairs and had their feet up on one of the school chairs. These are just school chairs. They would sit by the hospital and just sleep however they could. Head on the bed, head on the pillow, or not even a pillow but a bag, and just make it work. Okay. On Tuesday, so bear in mind we got the call on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Okay, as in after midnight Tuesday. Amara's mum, Amara's my wife, for anybody who's not used to this channel or anybody who's new to the channel. Amara's mother had booked me a B&B at the bottom of the street where the hospital was. So you could literally see the B&B more or less from the hospital door. If you just walk to the side, you can see right down the street, and the B&B is at the end of the street there. And Amara's mother did this to give me some ease, because she knew that I was traveling back and forth and sleeping in cars and sleeping rough, and she just wanted to do whatever she could to help in this situation. May Allah reward her. So on this day, Amara's mum has booked this B&B. Just check this out now. And my sister, so me and my sister are always in this room by the hospital bed until 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. Every single day we're there at this point, okay? For some reason on this day, at about 11 o'clock, I decide that there's a B&B there, so I'm just going to go and put my bags down, wash up, rest, pray Isha, and just rest for a minute. My sister gets in her car and goes for a little drive, 11, 12, whatever. And I text my sister and I say, look, we should go back to the hospital, shouldn't we? And she's like, yeah, we should. But it's as though something was stopping us from going to the hospital room, and we don't know what, because every single day normally we would be in the hospital room at this point. We would just be there, and my sister was just driving around in the car, and I was just sat here in a B&B. It got to 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'd realised that I'd left my charger in the hospital, and I didn't want my battery to die. And my mum, obviously my grandmother was close to passing at this point, and I thought, I don't want my mum to message me, call me, and my grandmother's passed, and I can't even respond to it. So I walked back to the hospital. It was pouring down with rain. I walked back to the hospital. I was soaked. Went into the hospital room, got my charger, and when I went into the hospital room, it turned out that the nurses on the ward, or whatever you call them, had brought in this little mattress. Bear in mind that this is on the 5th day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. This is on the 6th day of us staying at the hospital. Yeah, 5th or 6th day, they brought in a mattress, and they said that this mattress has just been on the ward the whole time. We could have given it to you for the whole time. And they moved, what had happened, the bed had moved over to one side. We removed the chairs from one side of the room, and did put this mattress down on the floor. And my two cousins were sleeping. The two cousins that I mentioned were sleeping on the mattress on the floor. Normally they're up at the bedside, sitting at the bedside. Right now they're sleeping on the mattress on the floor. And I walk into the room, and they're knocked out. They're snoring. I grab my charger. My mum notices that I've come into the room, and my mum is out of it. She's sleeping. And I stopped and I looked at my nanny Jan, and I stayed there for like about 10 minutes, because I did this thing all the time when I would lean over into my nanny's face. So obviously my nanny's face is stuck just looking in one side, but I'd lean over into my nanny's face, and whether or not people, I can see something in my nanny's eye that she acknowledged me. She could see me. If I stared there for long enough, there was something inside there. And this time when I leant in at one in the morning, everything seemed different. And I even messaged Amara when I got back home and said, well, back to the B&B, and said, this feels like my grandma's breath was just robotic now. It's crazy how the body just keeps surviving and does what it does, even when the person's not there. And something felt different to me, and that's why I stood over the bed for 10 minutes or so. My cousin woke up. My mum looked over and said, is everything okay? Because I was stood for an unusually long, unusual amount of time. Something felt different to me. I went back to the hotel, to the B&B. I texted my sister, spoke to my sister. Should we go back to the hospital? She's like, yeah. I'm just going to drive. She says she's just going to drive around for a bit. She's enjoying the rain and the peace right now. But my sister says, but I think Amijan's going to pass tonight, so I'm not going to go too far. What happened was at 2:30 in the morning, my mother got up to go to the bathroom. Bear in mind that she's in the hospital ward. My two cousins are sleeping on the floor. My mother got up and she walked past the bed, and she thought, oh, she said she got up because she felt cold, and she went to her mum's side, my Auntie John's side, and leant over, and she said she heard a certain type of breathing. If anybody's, I said, witness anybody passing, it's like a crackly pop kind of breathing. And then my mum thought, I'll just go to the bathroom quickly and then I'll come back out and see if mum's okay. My mum went to the bathroom, came back out, and my Auntie John was no longer breathing and she had passed. And subhanallah, look, this point here that I'm making is, my Nanny John was on a 24-hour watch. Her family, such was the love that we had for our family, that we stayed by the bed for the whole time. Yeah, we weren't going to let her out of our sight. No matter what happened, we're not letting her out of our sight. We're going to stay here right until the end. But when my Auntie John passed, it was as though there was something a force stopping me and my sister from being in the room. The nurses have brought this mattress in and put my cousins down on the floor, where normally you'd wake up and you look over and just look. You look over and look. They were down and out of sight. If you look now, you're looking at the foot of the bed. They couldn't see anything. My mum had made dua to be there when her mother passes. My mum woke up with a shiver, saw my Auntie John's final breaths, went to the bathroom, came out, and my Auntie John was no longer breathing. And subhanallah, look, even on 24-hour watch, my grandma passed while no one was looking, because that's what was written. And although I may have gone a long way about making this point, the point is that there are other forces at hand. Allah has his own plan, regardless of what our plans are, and Allah can honor our dua, but Allah is in control of things here, and sometimes our best way is to submit. It was obviously written for my Nanny John to pass with nobody watching. And if you said to me or to anyone there that she's going to pass when no one's watching, everybody would say there is not a second when nobody's going to be watching. But look what Allah did. Look what God did. Subhanallah. Okay, I've just got 2 more points to make. My first point is that when I was young, really young, I can't even remember how old it was. And I don't know if I have a memory of this or if I've seen the pictures and created the memory of this, but I met my great grandmother, my mother's mother's mother. I met her. There are pictures that exist of this. I feel like I have a memory of it, but who knows? To me, growing up, people used to say, have you met your great-great-grandmother? Do you have a great-great-grandma? I used to say, yeah, I've met my great-great-grandma. As in, it's a cool thing. Yeah, I've met someone that's really, really old, you know? And it was just kind of like this thing that I say, and it's just this person that was really old. It's like a member of my family who I don't really know to love or have a relationship with, but I knew that they existed, and I was really happy that I had a picture with them. But the relationship, obviously, I was 3 or something like that. The relationship is something unknown to me. Obviously, I have a daughter, and my wife is 6 months pregnant with my son. Inshallah, he'll be born all healthy and all of that. And for this grandparent here, for this Auntie John, my Nana John, my grandma that I'm referencing's husband, never saw any great grandchildren. But my Auntie John, Amaya was born the year after my Nana John, my granddad, passed. My other 2 grandparents on my dad's side, they knew great grandchildren, because of our cousins had other children on that side. But on this side, my Amaya, my daughter, was my grandmother's only great grandchild. Amaya will never. She'll know when I tell her and explain to her, but Amaya will never know or feel how much she meant to my grandmother. Firstly, my grandma always made dua to live to see her great grandchildren. She did, and she only had 1. And when she heard that Amara was pregnant with the second, she said to my mum that, I pray that I live just to see the birth of this second one. And obviously she didn't make it, but she did live to see Amaya. And we have a picture as well of just like I have with my great grandmother, we have a picture of Amaya with my Auntie John. We went to London very, very soon after Amaya was born, maybe like a few months after. And there is a picture of Auntie John playing with her. But we used to FaceTime, we used to send pictures. My Auntie John always sent Edie, always asked about her, always sent her love. Do you remember like how I said she responded to us and put her hands up and made noises while she was passing? What had happened is there was one moment when me and this is on the Friday. And like I said, the last thing she did was put her arms up to my brother and to my other cousin. But on the Friday, there was a moment where me and my sister were alone in the room with my grandmother. Bear in mind, I've explained that my grandmother is just looking into one space. She's totally unresponsive. She doesn't talk. She's not moving. She's not anything. And Amara had told me to pass on a message to my Ammi John, thanking her for the relationship that she gave to her and for all the love she'd given her. And I passed on the message, and you just kind of want to get some kind of response out of your grandparent, don't you? And I said, do you remember? I said, obviously it's Sufyan. Amara has said da 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 da, and Amaya is there as well, and they really wanted to come. And when I said Amara and Amaya, my grandmother moved her hand, and I said, shall I play a video? And something made me put a video of Amaya on, and Amaya saying, Assalamu alaikum, I love you, I miss you, Assalamu alaikum. And Amara is saying, oh, that's nice. And so Amara and Amaya talking to each other, and it's this really nice video of Amaya saying this. And my sister as my witness, my grandmother let out the biggest wail. She wailed so loud, and it was a bit startling. And she put her hand up, and I grabbed her hand, and she pushed it against my face and dug her fingers into my face. I had my hand on this side of her hand, so her hand's inside my hand, and she dug her fingers into my face like this, and she wailed for seconds. Yeah, she wailed for like 5-6 seconds, and then she wailed again. And I said, do you want me to play it again? And I played it again, and she wailed again, and she gripped my face again when she heard Amaya's voice. And then eventually I turned the video off, and it's like when I turned the video off, my Ammi was still making this noise, and then eventually it stopped, and she went back into her resting position, and I cried my eyes out. And my sister stood there and said, wow, like subhanallah, we just witnessed that. Amaya will never know how much my Nani Jan loved her. She loved her so much. I don't like saying that, but she crawled out of death to wail at her voice and hold and squeeze my face when she heard her granddaughter's voice and Amara's voice. But that will always stick with me, and it's made me reflect on instead of just thinking of this as some kind of like passing, oh yeah, my great grandmother as well. It's made me appreciate the relationship or the love that my great grandmother may have had for me, and to look at it with more than just, oh, I met my great grandmother one day, and that although she does have other great grandchildren, or did at that point, my great grandmother, we could have been her world. Maybe we were her world. And when she did meet us, obviously she knows she's coming to the end of her life. Maybe that was a lot more important. And maybe to see us was all she ever prayed for. Yeah, so that stuck with me. Anyway. Tough one, this, isn't it? Okay, the last point, rough video, it's like a self-therapy session. The last point is that Amara's 6 months pregnant. Amaya's 1.5. I mentioned that we went to London on Friday, really early Friday morning. We found out on Thursday that we need to go, and we left really, really early Friday morning, like Fajr time. And then we had to come back on Friday night, late at night. I'm talking like midnight Friday, could turn in Saturday. And then on Saturday morning, I told Amara that, Amara, I'm not comfortable with, I feel like I did the wrong thing in coming home. I need to go back. Amara straight away said to me, go on, go, get your stuff, get ready, just go. I'm not accepting that you can feel like this. Go, 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 go. She urged me and encouraged me to go, and supported me in going to London straight away. And I went back on Saturday, and I didn't return home until Thursday. Yeah, so I went on a Friday, remember, and I'd only been back for a couple hours before I went. So I've been gone for a week. And I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but for somebody who's very heavily pregnant with a 1.5-year-old, it wasn't the easiest situation for Amara to be alone at home in, but she showed me nothing but support the whole time. She supported me however she could. She encouraged me to go. She didn't give me any bad feelings associated to that. Her and her mother actually booked a B&B to make things easy for me while I was there. If you know about London, I actually hate London, but you get these like ULEZ, low emission zone fines, and she just said, which days did you go through? And Amara paid all of the fines for me and said, look, this day, and so Amara made it so I didn't have to do anything other than focus on my grandmother and supporting my mother whilst I was there. She even said that, she offered to come the whole time, said we'll just stay in, we'll just do whatever we can to stay. And obviously I don't want, that was not necessary for them to come, but Amara was willing to come. And then when it was the janazah, the funeral on a Thursday, again she said, should I come? I said no, stay at home. Obviously it's too much travel for them to do. Amara had like pelvic pains last time in her pregnancy, and she was willing to put her body and Amaya and everything at risk, and not compromise her health basically in order to show me support. That's all I can ask of my wife. And the point that I'm making here is, there are some things in life that you only get one shot at, and they will only happen once. The death of parents, of grandparents, births, you name what those events are. There are some things that only happen once. And as husbands, as wives, as brothers, sisters, spouses, everything, whatever you are, and especially to our parents and to our spouses, you have to show up. You have to show up. You need to support your spouses in these times of need. There are some things, like I said, that only happen once in life. If you can't show up for that one time in life, if you can't show the support for that one occasion in life, if you can't swallow your pride, put your emotions to a side, put your little insecurities to a side and your own needs to a side to support somebody with this thing that's only going to happen once, then what do you want me to say? If you flop with that, what do you want me to say? Yeah, then Allah help you. Then it's between you and God. Just the thought of somebody not being supported through situations like this, it's a lot. It's actually too much for me. I just have no patience for it. I feel like it's not acceptable. It's totally unacceptable, and spouses and everything deserve the support of their spouse. Love is not just words, love are actions. And if we come to a point where we can't support, or where we can't put our spouse first, and we can't put the people that we claim to love, our children, our wives, our husbands, before us, if we can't do that and make that sacrifice, then what right do we have to stand on the words love and duty? If you can't do it for love, and you can't do it for duty, and you can't do it because you're a believer, then what are you going to do it because of? What? Don't claim that you are something just because of the people are watching, if when it comes to it you're not going to do anything. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that. And obviously I got the support of my wife, and I pray that, look, husbands out there, support your wives. Yeah, seriously, support your wives. Yeah, we can't be. I pray that when the situation does occur, which it most likely will, like I said, if things go in a natural order with Amara, I know, may Allah make it easy for me, but I know that I will be there for Amara. It's unquestionable. Yeah, it's unquestionable. There's no way that I would deny her of her rights, and the right to my love, and the right to attend and indulge in all of these things without my support. What am I here for then? Then what am I here for? Yeah. So to anyone with grandparents, look, honor, cherish those relationships, honor your grandparents. Please pray that my grandparents are forgiven and that they're entered into the highest stations of paradise. May Allah have mercy on all of our grandparents, if you do have those relationships. And one day we watching will be the grandparents or the great grandparents. Okay, this isn't just something that you need to cast your mind to, oh well, my grandma or no, you will be that grandparent one day. Give the grandparents the honor now that you would like to receive when you reach that point of being a grandparent. Yeah, okay, that's kind of all I have to say right now. We'll be back with another video, our usual content soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you for listening. May Allah make it easy for you.